If you drink 8 glasses of water a day, but still feel completely exhausted after an hour of tending to your patio plants, you are not alone, and you are not doing anything wrong. In fact, you might be surprised to learn that plain tap water is not always the fastest way to rehydrate your body. Science has shown us that drinking large amounts of plain water, especially after you have been sweating out in the summer heat, can actually make you feel more drained. It flushes out the very energy reserves your body is trying to hold on to. Today, we are going to look at the real science of staying hydrated, and I'm going to show you what you need to add to your glass so that it actually starts working for you. Professional athletes and sports teams spend millions of dollars every year on complex recovery technologies, but their main secret for instant relief is often a liquid that you probably poured down your kitchen sink this morning. We're going to talk about that, and we will explore simple, natural drinks that work far better than any brightly colored sports drink from the grocery store. These are the secrets that Roman legionnaires, traditional farmers, and our own grandparents used to work long hours in the sun without ever feeling the exhaustion that so many of us accept as normal today. Everything we need is already sitting in your kitchen or growing right now in your garden. Let us start by understanding what happens to your body when you step out onto your balcony or into your yard on a warm afternoon. Gardening, even if you are just pruning tomatoes in containers or watering hanging baskets, is real physical work. When you are out there, the sun warms you and your body naturally begins to sweat to keep you cool. But sweat is not just water. If a drop of sweat has ever rolled down your face and caught the corner of your lip, you know that it tastes salty. That saltiness is the key to this whole puzzle. When we sweat, we are losing vital minerals, specifically sodium, potassium, and magnesium. These minerals are called electrolytes, and they act like tiny electrical charges in your body. They tell your muscles to contract and relax smoothly. They help your brain send signals, and most importantly, they tell your cells to hold on to water. When you lose those minerals through sweat, and then you go inside and drink a tall glass of plain, ice-cold tap water, you are essentially pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. Your body recognizes the water, but without the missing sodium and potassium to anchor it, the water cannot easily pass into your cells. Instead, it just runs right through your system. You end up having to use the restroom frequently, while your actual cells remain thirsty and dehydrated. This is why you can drink water all afternoon and still feel that deep, lingering fatigue, or wake up the next morning with stiff joints and a slight headache. Your body was crying out for minerals, and you only gave it empty water. Our ancestors understood this perfectly, long before laboratories and scientists could explain the cellular biology behind it. They created brilliant, simple drinks to put those lost minerals back into the body, and they did it using wholesome ingredients. Today, you might walk down the aisle of a supermarket and see endless rows of sports drinks in neon colors. Those drinks are packed with artificial dyes, excessive amounts of processed sugars, and chemical preservatives that can actually be quite harsh on an older stomach. We do not need any of that. We can achieve a much better, much gentler result using the wisdom of traditional homesteaders and ancient cultures. To truly fix our hydration, we have to understand the golden rule of fluid absorption. There is a magical trio that makes water absorb into your body almost instantly. That trio is water, a little bit of sodium, and a tiny amount of natural sugar. It sounds incredibly simple, but the biology behind it is wonderfully elegant. In the lining of your intestines, there are microscopic pathways that absorb nutrients. When you consume a tiny bit of sugar and a pinch of salt together, they act like a key unlocking a door in your intestinal wall. They grab onto the water molecules and pull them directly into your bloodstream much faster than water could ever manage on its own. This mechanism is so powerful that health organizations around the world use this exact formula to save lives in medical emergencies. But we can use this same principle right in our own kitchens to build the perfect, refreshing summer drink. Let us look at a few of these natural powerhouses, starting with something you might find genuinely shocking. If we look at recent hydration studies, researchers tested 13 common beverages to see how well they kept fluid in the body over several hours. Plain water did just fine, as you would expect. But the drink that completely outperformed water, keeping people hydrated far longer, was ordinary milk. Both regular and skim milk proved to be incredible at holding fluid in the body. When you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Milk naturally contains sodium and potassium. It has a little bit of natural sugar in the form of lactose, and it has protein. That specific combination of nutrients slows down how quickly the liquid leaves your stomach. Instead of flushing straight through you, it absorbs slowly and steadily. Dairy farmers and farm workers have known this in their bones for generations. There is a reason that haying crews were handed cold pitchers of milk from the spring house at the end of a brutal afternoon. For those who tolerate dairy well, a small glass of cold milk after a hot morning of repotting plants is one of the most effective and soothing recovery drinks you can choose. It provides gentle hydration and gives your tired muscles a little bit of protein to rebuild. If milk feels too heavy for a hot day, traditional farm families had another solution that is even gentler on the stomach. They prized traditional buttermilk. Cultured buttermilk is lighter, delightfully tangy, and carries all those same wonderful electrolytes electrolytes like potassium and calcium, but with friendly cultures that are very soothing to the digestive system. In the American South, a glass of cold buttermilk on a sweltering summer evening was a beloved remedy for the heat. Across the world in India, a slightly thinner, spiced yogurt drink called chas is still poured freely all summer long. And in Turkey, shepherds walking stony hillsides under a merciless sun invented ayran, a simple blend of plain yogurt, cold water, and a pinch of salt, whipped together until frothy. These cultures were separated by oceans, yet they all arrived at the exact same conclusion. A little bit of dairy, thinned with cool water and touched with salt, is functional genius. It replaces what you lose in sweat, cools the body, and is incredibly gentle on digestion. Now, let us talk about the secret from the kitchen sink that I mentioned earlier. If you have ever spent a long day working in the garden, bending over your raised beds or reaching up to prune your climbing vines, you might have experienced sudden muscle cramps in your legs or hands later that evening. It is a very common and very uncomfortable problem.
For years, people thought cramps were only caused by a lack of potassium, but recent science has shown us another path, and it involves the jar of pickles sitting in your refrigerator. The salty, sour liquid left behind when the pickles are gone is an absolute treasure, and most people just pour it away. But professional athletes now keep pickle brine on the sidelines of major televised games. When you feel a cramp coming on, taking just a small sip of pickle brine can often stop the muscle spasm in its tracks. The high sodium content instantly replaces what you lost in sweat, but researchers also believe that the sharp, acidic bite of the vinegar triggers a nerve reflex in the back of your throat that tells your nervous system to relax the cramping muscle. You do not need to drink a whole glass. Just a small splash of brine from the jar is enough. Your grandmother probably knew this already. Farm workers would often take a quick sip of brine from the crock before heading back out to the fields. If you prefer your drinks to be sweet and refreshing, we can look right out the back door to the kitchen garden. One of the biggest reasons people do not drink enough fluids is simply the plain water gets incredibly boring. As we get older, our sense of thirst can naturally diminish, so making our drinks visually appealing and delicious is actually a vital part of a healthy strategy. Flavor is not just a luxury. Flavor is the gentle encouragement that keeps the glass moving to your lips. Take the humble cucumber. Slicing a cucumber and a handful of fresh mint from your patio pot and letting them steep in cool water creates a garden cooler that is hiding in plain sight. Cucumbers are 95% water, but that water is beautifully packaged with natural plant compounds and small amounts of potassium and magnesium. The mint adds a cooling sensation that makes the water feel wonderfully crisp. A picture of this on your counter looks beautiful, tastes delicate, and quietly encourages you to stay hydrated all day without adding any heavy sugars or calories. Watermelon is another incredible example of nature providing exactly what we need. Watermelon is essentially a canteen that grows on a vine. It is packed with potassium and those crucial natural sugars we talked about earlier, the ones that help pull water across your intestinal wall. If you take fresh watermelon, blend it up with a gentle squeeze of lime juice and a tiny, almost invisible pinch of sea salt, you have created a natural sports drink. The salt balances the sweetness and replaces the sodium you lose when you sweat. The result is deeply refreshing, incredibly good for you, and completely free of artificial additives. But what if you want something savory? Some of us simply do not have a sweet tooth, especially when we are hot and tired. Here is a surprise straight from the vegetable patch. Tomato juice is one of the most electrolyte-dense drinks you can possibly pour. A single glass delivers a very generous dose of potassium, and because it is usually savory, it pairs perfectly with a little bit of salt. It also contains lycopene, a wonderful plant compound that supports heart health. That combination of sodium and potassium together in one savory glass is exactly what your body craves after physical labor. A small glass of chilled tomato juice with a dash of celery salt is the vegetable garden's answer to the entire sports drink aisle. Now, I want to share with you two historical recipes that are so effective, they are practically miraculous. The first is a drink that fueled the American harvests for centuries. It is called switchel, or haymaker's punch. Back in the 1800s, before modern air conditioning or commercial beverages, farmers had to work out in the blazing sun for 10 or 12 hours a day. They needed something that would keep them going without making their stomachs ache. They relied on switchel. This is a blend of cool water, a splash of raw apple cider vinegar, a little bit of grated ginger, and a spoonful of blackstrap molasses. Every single ingredient in this old recipe earns its place. The molasses is naturally incredibly rich in potassium, iron, and calcium. The vinegar adds a bright, mouth-watering tang that makes you want to keep drinking, and the ginger is the real secret here. Ginger naturally settles the stomach and provides a gentle warming sensation that our ancestors trusted when working in extreme heat. Making switchel at home is wonderfully simple, and I highly recommend trying it. Take a quart of cool, clean water, add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of molasses, a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger, and a small pinch of salt. Stir it well and let it chill in your refrigerator overnight. The next day, you will be drinking the exact same fortifying punch that generations of Americans drank to stay strong during the harvest. It is earthy, perfectly tart, and remarkably restorative. The second historical recipe is one that mirrors the absolute best modern science,
and it comes to us from the street vendors of India. On the hottest days of the year, people in India drink something called shikanji, which is essentially salted lemonade. Most Americans think that putting salt in lemonade sounds like a terrible mistake, but the exact opposite is true. Plain lemonade is incomplete. When you squeeze fresh lemons into water, add a spoonful of honey for sweetness, and then add a clear, distinct pinch of salt, you are building the ultimate hydration formula. The lemon gives you potassium and vitamin C. The honey provides the gentle sugar needed to transport the fluids, and the salt replaces your lost sodium. It is the perfect trifecta. To make this properly, use 2 cups of cold water, the juice of 1 whole lemon, a spoonful of honey, and a small pinch of salt. When you drink it, it should not taste like seawater. The salt should just barely whisper in the background, rounding out the sourness of the lemon and making the whole drink taste fuller and more deeply satisfying. By now, you are probably realizing that you have a lot of options, and you might be wondering how to organize all this information. Having 20 different recipes can feel overwhelming, and nobody wants to spend their whole day mixing drinks. So let us simplify this. Let us build what we can call your daily hydration matrix. This is a practical, easy-to-follow system that uses these natural principles to keep you feeling energetic all day long without any complicated meal prep. We can break your day down into 3 simple phases: the morning awakening, the active work phase, and the recovery phase. Let us start with the morning awakening. When you wake up, your body has gone perhaps 8 hours without any fluids. You are naturally mildly dehydrated. Before you reach for your coffee, which is a mild diuretic, you need to wake your cells up gently. This is not the time for heavy dairy or strong vinegars. This is the perfect time for the cucumber and mint water we discussed, or simply a tall glass of room temperature water with a squeeze of fresh lemon and a tiny grain of sea salt. This gentle start signals your digestive system to wake up, provides a small trace of minerals, and begins the hydration process without shocking your system. Keep a pitcher of cucumber water in the fridge and pour yourself a glass first thing. The next phase is the active work phase. This is when you are out on the patio, moving pots, sweeping the balcony, or tending to your garden beds under the late morning or afternoon sun. This is when you are actively losing fluids and minerals through sweat. Plain water is not your best friend right now. This is the time for your ultimate home recipes. Before you go outside, mix up a glass of that salted lemonade, or the switchel if you prefer the earthy taste of molasses. If you are doing light work, even a glass of coconut water is beautiful here, as it is naturally loaded with potassium. The key during this active phase is that your drink must contain that magical trio: water, a little sugar, and a pinch of salt. Take a sip every 15 minutes. Do not wait until you are deeply thirsty. Thirst is a lagging indicator. By the time your mouth is completely dry, you are already dehydrated. Keep that salted lemonade on a small table near your workspace, and let the tart flavor keep you coming back for small, steady sips. Finally, we have the recovery phase. You have finished your work, you have come inside, you have washed your hands, and you are ready to sit down and rest. Your body now needs to cool down, repair muscle tissue, and hold on to whatever fluids you give it. This is where you bring out the heavy hitters. If your stomach feels settled, a small glass of cold milk or traditional buttermilk is absolute perfection right now. The proteins will soothe your tired muscles, and the natural fats and sugars will ensure the liquid stays in your system for hours, rehydrating you deeply while you relax. If you prefer something savory, a glass of chilled tomato juice with celery salt will flood your system with the potassium your muscles are begging for. And remember, if you feel a twitch or a cramp in your legs while you are resting in your favorite chair, go straight to the refrigerator and take a small sip of pickle brine. It is the fastest natural remedy you will ever find. What we are really talking about here is changing the way we look at a glass of water. For too long, we have been told that we just need to drink a certain number of ounces of plain water every day to be healthy. But hydration is not just about the volume of water you swallow. It is about the ability of your individual cells to absorb and hold on to that moisture. When you understand that your body needs minerals to hold the water, you stop fighting against your own biology. You do not need to carry around expensive plastic bottles filled with artificial blue and red liquids. You do not need to force yourself to chug tasteless water until your stomach aches. Everything you need to stay cool, energetic, and fully hydrated is right there in your kitchen cupboards and out in your garden. We are simply returning to the wisdom of the people who built this world world with their own two hands. They knew that a little bit of salt, a little bit of natural sweetness, and the fresh flavors of the harvest were all it took to sustain a person through a long day of honest work. I encourage you to try these methods this week. The next time you plan to spend an hour working with your plants, mix up a glass of salted lemonade or prepare a pitcher of cucumber mint water. Pay attention to how your body feels. Notice how you do not feel that sudden crash of fatigue, and notice how much better your joints feel the next morning. It is a small change, just a pinch of salt and a different way of thinking, but it makes all the difference in the world. Enjoy your time in the garden, stay comfortable in the heat, and drink to your real health.